intensity may be more than some wish to be exposed to. And those people should...
Greetings and salutations, witches and ghouls. Welcome to the Catacomb Cult presents 31 Days of Horror. Spectacular, spooktacular. This is week one's wrap-up show. And just a little information, the 31 Days of Horror challenge is to watch a horror movie every single day of October. I usually try to do this in October, but I usually only get around like 4 or 5, 6, 7, you know? And this is, I'm trying to do it every single day. I've seen my homies do it before, and I've always wanted to try it. And so far, so good, man. This is day 7, week 1, and we got 7 movies down the pike, and I'm gonna go down the list and give a quick, like 1-minute review of each movie, maybe even less on some. And yeah, fucking join along, download the calendar. It's all on my Instagram and all that, so let's get into it. From here on out, I'm going to be filming my reaction to the movie right after I watch the movie. Because right now I'm looking at day 1 movie and I'm like, I remember it, but I've watched 6 other movies since then. And I remember it, but I'm like, what was my feeling like right after that? You know what I mean? So I'm going to try and get more immediate reactions and whatever. That's all the minutia, the douche minutia. Shout out Howard Kramer. All right, let's get right into it. All right, for my first movie, October 1st, I watched The Cursed.
Judas asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?"
It's on Hulu. It was directed by Sean Ellis. I don't really know anything else. I looked him up real briefly. I didn't really see anything else that I don't know if this is his directorial debut or what, but it was a cool movie. It was like beautifully shot and whatever, but there was this crazy long opening, like a wide angle far up on the hill looking down into this valley of this massacre that was like crazy. And it was one shot. It was just one wide angle lens of like 50 people battling and like explosions and shit too. The choreography must have been insane. I don't know how to say that word. I'm so sorry. And seeing it written down makes me even more fucked up. But the syncopation of it all must have been insane to keep everybody's on cue, and it was super dope. So I like that. Like the cinematography was nuts. Also, like there was no lightheartedness to this movie at all. Like there was moments for definite jokes that could have been made, or like not even jokes, but like there's this bully, right? That you know how like kids in horror movies, they're always like fucking with something, and all the other kids are like, don't fuck with that, it's haunted or whatever. Don't do it. And the bully's like, yeah, fuck you. And this bully, like, there was a chance to like have a little levity. No spoilers, but there was a chance, and it wasn't. There was just like you thought, like at first I was like, oh, is the bully like joking around or what? Is it like a joke? And no, it was not. So yeah, there wasn't too much. It was a real somber, serious movie. There's not too much trickery and like stuff that's only meant for the audience, or stuff that every other character knows, or only one character knows and all the other characters don't know. You know what I'm saying? That Alfred Hitchcock effect. Yeah, there wasn't too much trickery and like things where you're like, just look behind you kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it was originally called 30 Pieces of Silver, which is a way doper name than The Cursed. The Cursed is like that Christina Ricci movie from Wes Craven a few years ago. Like, that's like, The Cursed seems so generic. I don't know why it was named The Cursed. It's a European movie, so maybe they thought like The Cursed is for dumb Americans or some shit. But 30 Pieces of Silver is dope. That's what they paid Judas, you know, when he handed over JC, you know what I mean? I will say this, it's not really a slow burn. Like a lot of movies that I get bored with or whatever sometimes. It wasn't really a slow burn. It was, it kind of started right away and didn't stop But the thing that was the problem with it for me, it was a lot of cliche shit. And it was kind of stuff you've already seen. Its saving grace was that it was filmed like immaculately. I do like period pieces. I tend to gravitate towards period pieces a lot. It just presents more obstacles. Like nowadays you'd be like, oh, call the cops, or, oh, do this and that with technology. It just presents more obstacles, and it brings you in a different way of life. But it's okay, that's number one, The Cursed. Okay, day 2, we got Studio 666.
This is not just a creepy rock and roll house, but it allows spiritual entities to cross into our world.
Oh my God!
And this is directed by B.J. McDonnell. I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him. I looked him up on IMDb. I saw like a couple TV credits and stuff, but this movie was cool. Like if you're a Foo Fighters fan, I'm sure you're gonna love it. I like the Foo Fighters just fine. And I'm not like a crazy, I don't even know if I really like them, but their songs are okay, you know what I mean? I like There Goes My Hero just because it was about Kurt Cobain, right? I think it's about Kurt Cobain. Kind of a sad song, but if you like that, it would be cool. And there was like semi-funny parts. I'm trying not to shit on it because I know, there was definitely some ridiculous kills that were funny and good, like good as like practical effects. I don't think it was CGI, but let me play it right here. No, but there was a funny scene with Whitney Cummings. She was funny. But she's a fucking comedian. She's great. But yeah, it was way too long. It was almost 2 hours. And like, it could have easily been 120. You know what I mean? Easily been 120. And the overall story was, it was basic. It was cool. Like, watch it if you're a horror fan. It wasn't too much gross out stuff. There was 1 or 2 like cool kills, as it were. You know what I'm saying? But it was good. On to number 3. And this is one that I've never seen, and I was surprised that I've never seen because I've seen it around. It came out in 2009. I've seen it around a long time. I just never got to it. For some reason, I don't know. I just never was like, let's sit down and try it. But I'm glad I did, and that is the original Orphan.
My name is Dr. Varava. I'm calling from the CERN Institute.
I don't understand. How can they have no record of her being there?
There has to be some explanation.
The orphanage has never heard of her.
And the reason I watched it is because Orphan First Kill just came out this year. And I heard an interview with the guy on some movie podcast I listened to. And I wanted to watch it. Like, I want to watch the new one because the guy's interview was cool. But so I was like, I got to watch the first one, Orphan, the original, the OG. And I'm glad I did. It was dope, man. It was crazy. This was directed by Jaume Collet Serra. And he directed like Jungle Cruise, The Shallows, and the new upcoming Black Adam. And first off, I love Vera Farmiga. Vera Farmiga. And yeah, she's great. And she looks great. She's very pretty and very talented. It was a very disturbing opening scene, like pretty fucking disturbing. And I was like eating popcorn and I was like, I can't really eat popcorn right now, man. Like, it's a whole scene with Vera. It's a whole like baby. No spoilers, but it was brutal. And I was like, I can't eat during this shit. I got a little nauseated out because, I like my popcorn and shit. And, I looked it up because I remember hearing on the podcast that it was based on a true story, but like just the idea of this, well, I don't want to give it away, but it's based on a true story, which is cool, man. And like the inklings of the ideas, it wasn't as like nefarious as this, like murder wise and stuff, but the idea of it, this elaborate plan that went down was actually really, I don't want to spoil it, but this actually happened in real life and you can look that shit up. It's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, there was just like little things in there, like little writing issues that I thought were like weird. there's a nun that comes over to talk about something, but they don't want like the children to hear. But the nun is in the living room, like just talking loud as fuck. Just little writing things like that. I'm like, you wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? You'd be like, hey, let's go for a walk, or I don't know. Just little things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, but there's just some other writing issues that are all all my other notes are hella spoilers, so I don't want to get into that, you know? But yeah, that was a good movie. I recommend that one. That one so far was the best so far of the three, but we got more. Okay, here's number 4. Number 4 is Bodies 3X. No, I wrote Bodies 3X, but I meant 3 times. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
You're always gaslighting me.
You fucking trigger me.
You are so toxic.
Relax. You're silencing me.
Is that all you got, motherfucker?
Did you just fucking shoot me? I can't believe you're making this about you.
This was directed by Helena Rygen. And I looked her up on IMDb. She's acted in a lot, but I think this might be her directorial debut. And I like this movie a lot. This was great. It was funny as fuck. It's an A24 movie, and you can't really go wrong with A24. They put out the best films, in my opinion, lately in the past decade, for real. And maybe like 5 years. This was a really good movie, though. Really well acted, and kind of like twists at the end that I kind of guessed from the beginning, but I was like, nah, they wouldn't like do the whole movie like this. But it was still like surprise, even though I kind of like I had an idea of it at the end. I was like, oh shit, damn, it was still surprising. So it was cool, and it was funny, man, and it was there was some gory shit in that too. Yeah, I don't know. It was funny though. It was kind of like a whodunit, a modern day whodunit. There's definitely some unlikable characters in there. And, you know, I'm used to seeing like memes of Pete Davidson. And, you know, I always knew he was funny, like as a stand-up and stuff. But I'm used to seeing like memes. He's just so much in the culture now. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you kind of like fuck it off like, but you forget he's like a really good actor and shit, man. And he's funny. But yeah, it's for the young generation though. It's like, or it's a satire of the young generation, kind of making fun of itself, but it's targeted towards the younger kids. It's like making fun of these young kids and how they act. Like I'm talking like, you know, early 20s kids and how they act, but it's targeted towards teens and 20-year-olds. So I don't know. It's crazy. Don't call her a psychopath. That's ableist. And I was just like, what the fuck? Man, dude, if that's how kids are, God bless them. God bless them. But feelings are facts. That was another line. And she's like, feelings are facts. And I was like, whoa. They had to be doing it overtly, but they did it in a way where you could almost see it was like that character, and it wasn't over the top. It was like a real type of character. I don't know. It was funny though. And there's a girl who has a podcast in it. It's funny when they're like, "Oh, you just hate listening to the podcast," and the girl gets all butthurt. That's how I feel about my podcast. So I connected with her having her podcast. You know, like the ridiculousness of some of these characters is just pure comedy, man. And I think if we keep going like down that direction, we might all die. But no. Okay, number 5, my best. I gotta start ripping through these. Number 5, my best friend's Exorcism.
What was that?
Hot damn, we got ourselves a demon. Woo!
I think we're alone now.
And this is directed by Damon Thomas. I don't know him again. Yeah, I like this movie. It was kind of, I mean, it was okay. It delivered, but it was basic, you know? I don't want to say basic, but it was just a movie. You know what I'm saying? There were some funny parts. Wasn't very scary. Wasn't very visually captivating. I don't know, but like I enjoyed it just as like a nothing kind of movie, you know what I mean? Not, I don't want to say it's nothing. I'm not talking shit on it like that. But it was kind of just, you know, it was a movie. And we got through it. Luckily, it wasn't crazy long like, you know, the Studio 666 movie, but it was all right. It was funny. There was a funny line in there where this girl, they bust out some acid, some blotter acid, and this girl goes like, I don't do that stuff that melts, because this takes place in the 80s. She's like, I don't do that stuff that melts your brain. I don't want to end up like Sid Barrett. Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd. That shit, I don't know. I like that shit. But and then there was another funny line. She called her virginity her maidenhood. Or no, the nun called it that, something like that. A nun called it her maidenhood, and I get a kick out of the repression of people's feelings. You know what I mean? Of people's natural urges. I'll go in on that type of shit on my podcast. But yeah, there was a crazy bully in there. You know, that's what's with 80s movies. I heard that on Stranger Things. The directors of Stranger Things said every 80s movies and those kinds of genres, you have to have a psychopath bully. Like everybody has bullies and stuff, but you got to have one that you think like they'll really kill you and stuff. And there's one or two of those in this show, but in this movie. But it was good. I mean, you know, it was all right. Another funny line was puke and rebuke. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, and like the main character wasn't very likable. And that I have a problem with that. I have a problem like connecting with the movie when that happens. You know, that might come up a lot in this list for me, just for me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like I have to like them, but you have to have some kind of redeeming quality. But anyway, that was number 5, my best friend's Exorcism. All right, now I got to explain this one. Number 6 was She Will. And I watched it. I watched the whole fucking thing. Luckily, it wasn't long. Luckily, it was like an hour and a half. And I really didn't like it. It was, again, like The Curse, really beautifully shot. It was directed by Charlotte Colbert, perhaps. And it takes place in Scotland. It's about witches. Like that shit, like, you know, the folklore in Ireland and Scotland and shit is so deep and rich. You know what I mean? And like, it was so fucking boring and self-indulgent and pretentious. And I don't say that too much because I am pretentious, but this was just like, yo, I can't get down with it. And it was directed by Dario Argento, which I'm not like a crazy nut fan who knows his whole shit, but he did Suspiria, one of the craziest fucking movies. And I used the clip in the intro from Suspiria, the 70s one. But I did want to look up about the 1972 Scotland witch burnings. I didn't know about those. I need to look those up, and I'll do that on the original podcast, on the OG podcast. But there's so many hallucinatory, this is spoilers. Sorry, I don't give a fuck. There's so many hallucinatory montage, like dreamlike montages with long music and orchestras, and it's just so long and slow. And there's so many like back after back, and they're boring as shit. They're not even interesting, even visually interesting. Like there are some parts that are visually interesting. I don't know. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I try not to shit on movies because I know how much work it goes into making movies, even shitty movies. There's so much work that goes into them. But there was like one or two like horror moments where you're like, whoa, that was kind of cool. Like, can we pick it up now? But and even those weren't scary whatsoever, though. Like, they were just cool elements. So I'm going to take She Will and this movie and combine them into one, and that'll be number 6. So technically I watched 8 movies in 7 days, but this was a mini movie. It was only 45 minutes long, and it's The Werewolf by Night. No, just Werewolf by Night.
I can't wait to find out what breed of evil you are. You'll wanna see this, darling.
Please don't do this. Death is coming for you!
Directed by Michael Giacchino. He's normally a music composer for like every fucking movie you've ever heard of. And like Jurassic Park from everything to Toy Story and shit. And I think this is his directorial debut, and the opening titles were so dope. It was so vintage and shit. I love that kind of stuff. I'm gonna recreate that shit. I already know it. And yeah, this was just an awesome movie. It's on Disney Plus. If you have a subscription, I use a password, you know. But yeah, it was dope. I love this movie. It was a quick action horror movie, and it was just really well done, man. All in black and white, stylized like fuck. Super ill, man. Super classic horror movie. You know what I mean? And it was bloodier than I thought for being on, Disney. It was like gorier. Maybe because it was black and white, it like wasn't as vivid, It felt more old school, but it's still like the effects in black and white still look killer. And it was a dope movie. And there was a surprise guest in there. Let's just say his name is Ted, but you might know him as another name if you know the lore. But yeah, it was fucking awesome. Oh yeah, and like the editing style with those, they had cigarette burns in the corner, which are those, I'll put one right here. They had film grain and like scratch and dusts and stuff. It looked dope. It was really dope. I don't even know, they might have shot it on film, but I bet you they did it in post. But either way, they made it look incredible. There's a funny moment, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but there's a funny moment where like the guy is reading his will basically, but he's like an he's in his casket. He's dead. He's in his casket and he's like animatronic, like a Disney ride and shit, reading his will. That shit was pretty dope. I want to do that. Like I want to do that, busting a rap or something. It was a good movie. Loved it. Totally made up for fucking boring ass She Will. And I'm going to count those both as 6, even though Werewolf deserves to have its own number 1 slot. But okay. Now, this is the big one. The one that I was anticipating. This isn't the biggest one of the month for me, though, by the way. And this is number 7. It's Hellraiser.
It's time. Greater delights await. We wish to see you proceed. Feed it. Their blood, their pain. All for us. What is it you pray for?
It was directed by David Bruckner, and I feel like I've heard that name a lot, but I looked him up and he did one of my favorite horror movies, not favorite, but a horror movie I really enjoyed, which was The Ritual, a few years ago. And then he did VHS and some other stuff. I felt like I knew him. I thought he was like, maybe there's another Bruckner, right? There is a Bruckner. Am I just blanking his name? But yeah, this guy, David Bruckner, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this movie. It hasn't really sunk in yet. You know what I'm saying? It definitely wasn't very scary to me. Like, it was uncomfortable. There But that was like Clive Barker's original. Clive Barker's original was way more gory and way more, I don't know, just, this one made you uncomfortable though and like tense, but it definitely wasn't scary. I'll put this on record. I'm not the crazy, I've seen not all the Hellraisers. I've seen the first 3 Hellraisers. The last one in like 93. The ones from then on I haven't seen. I've seen first Hellraiser, then Hellbound, I think is number 2. And I forget what number 3 is. But I've seen those 3. And I'm not like the craziest fan. I like those movies. I loved them. I loved the first one especially. And or maybe it was number 2 I loved especially. I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. I don't like rewatch these films all the time. So I'm not like an expert in Hellraiser. But I know from what I remember, it was definitely more brutal, the Clive Barker versions. The protagonist, the main character, is like hateable. Like she sucks. Not the actress. I'm not talking shit on the actress. But you gotta have like, this is more of a writing thing. You gotta have like something that is redeemable, and she kind of doesn't. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're a heroin addict. I have very close friends who are heroin addicts, but like they're also awesome people. She's a heroin addict, plus she's a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? Who doesn't give a fuck about anybody else and just shits on everything. But anyway, so I don't like that. She ends up kind of having an arc, but not really, man. Like, so that kind of turned me off. I will say Hell's Labyrinth looked pretty cool, where the god Leviathan rules. That shot was pretty dope of Hell's Labyrinth. That was pretty cool. So I like that. The Cenobites were, I guess like, you know, normally they were always in leather, but now they're like, their skin is like working as the leather. I kind of like that. Like the torture that they have to go through to become the Cenobites. I don't know the lore like to the T, but when Leviathan or the devil, I can't remember, I'm sorry, like takes over a Cenobite, I know there's like a flashback in one of the movies to like World War II or World War I or something of a guy turning into a Cenobite, right? Anyway, there was some cool elements in this movie. It definitely dope elements. And I like the costumes, like instead of the leather, I like the using your skin as like the leather. I thought that was pretty cool. And the block thing that changes, I'm so sorry, I forget the fuck what it is called. Tesseract? No, I'm sorry. People who are true Hellraiser fans are gonna be pissed. But I forget what it's called. But that it's a cool concept. And I hope they do something. I hope they just like dig into it more. You know what I mean? Teach me the lore a little bit more. Cause I've only seen those movies a few times, but yeah, they didn't really get crazy deep into it. And it was an okay movie, but all right, well, that's been it. This has been week 1's wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast. I can't wait to do another week. Sometimes I'm going to have to fit movies like in the morning or in the afternoons or something like that. Cause every night, it's fun though every night, you know. Please don't hate me for my opinions of these movies. I know people get really attached to the old properties, but movies are supposed to provoke and challenge you. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm doing. Welcome. We'll see you next week, and I'll have another 7 movies to chop it up with you. And hopefully they're good. Let's hope. And yeah, 31 Days of Horror. Get on it. If you haven't started yet, get on it. Double them up. Do as many as you can at least. Do from here on out to the end. And hit me up in the comments and tell me what you're watching. Or give me suggestions on what to watch. I'm trying to do all films I haven't seen before. Because I keep watching, like when I watched She Will, I was like, damn, man, I should have just rewatched The Witch. You know, because I haven't seen The Witch. The Witch is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I like to sparingly watch movies that I love. So I've only seen that movie twice in my whole life. And that was years ago when I seen it. I would have so much rather rewatched it. But I'm trying to do all new movies. Not new movies like now. They can be from like the 70s. Just stuff I haven't seen. So Peace out, Catacomb Cult. 31 Days of Horror. Get down. Join the cult. All right, love you guys. Peace. Smooches.
Established in 399 BC, this is the Catacomb Cult.